This is my 2008 Bug E, and if you weren't here for the past couple episodes, I basically bought it not running, took it apart, got it working, did a bunch of cosmetic stuff to it, and put it mostly back together. But if you're wondering why the thumbnail looks like this, I kind of make a huge mistake later in the video that fries everything. And the only reason I'm doing all this is so I can afford my dream car, a Porsche Boxster. I've never put so much time, money, and work into one thing. So yeah, there's a lot on the line here. This thing looks pretty bad. So I started out by using some rubber trim that I had left over. It was a little hard to get on, but it actually ended up looking pretty good. All right, let's see if it'll fit. Oh yeah, it fits pretty good. And it looks so much better. So last episode, I installed this speedometer thingy, but I haven't measured the wheel to calculate how fast it was going yet. So I basically just need to measure out how far it takes for one full rotation and then put it into the speedometer thingy and it should be done. There we go. It should be all calibrated now. Then I took off the plexiglass canopy because I wanted to polish it. This thing is gonna make polishing really easy and it's corded. So I started by wiping it down just to make sure there was nothing on it that would scratch it when I polish it. And I use this Plastic X headlight restorer because it apparently works really well in plexiglass. But I only spent about an hour polishing the inside because it wasn't too scratched and it was already looking way better than it did before. Alright, the inside is done. Then I wiped down the front dash because it's hard to get to when the canopy is on. Speaking of the canopy, I put it on to make it easier to polish. And I wiped it down good and got to work polishing it. But because the outside was so scratched up, I did one polish layer and then wiped it off and did a second layer, which seemed to really get the scratches out. And so I basically repeated that throughout the whole canopy, which was taking a while, but it was working very, very well. It did leave behind some like weird white specks all over it, but I wasn't too worried because I was pretty sure I could just wipe it off when I was done polishing. So I kept going, but I probably spent about 5 hours just doing the outside. But it was actually pretty fun. It wasn't too much work, and I just listened to music the whole time, so I actually kind of enjoyed it. Okay, it is looking really good. I'm really happy with how that turned out. But that took way too long. It took like 5 hours. It was looking really great, but it still had those white specks all over it, so I wiped it down with a wet cloth. I'm just gonna try some of this ceramic coat stuff, see if it does anything. Because after washing it, it doesn't look as good anymore, so I don't know. So I put it on a small part just to be safe. I actually think that really helped. No way. So I decided to put it all over the outside. And I flipped it over and also put it all on the inside. It was probably kind of hard to tell on camera, but after wiping it down with that wet cloth earlier, it did look pretty bad. So this was a huge improvement. It only took about half an hour. Okay, so it is looking so much better. I'm really happy with how it looks. But I don't love how you can see all the Velcro on the sides. I think it just looks really bad. So I bought this trim tape stuff for like a car. So hopefully I can put this over this and make it look really good. It's definitely gonna be tough though to get it around this curve. But I did have a solution. I used this heat gun thing and it really helped. But I was still getting bubbles in it, so I took it off and tried again. I heated it up too much and now it's all warped. Man, this is tough. Yeah, it was a bit more tricky than I expected. I keep getting bubbles in it. It's so annoying. So I tried again and it was looking much better, but still not quite good enough. Man, I don't know. I was starting to not have enough material left to do the whole canopy, but luckily it was looking good enough for me, so I went with it and went across the whole side and all the way to the back. But it was too sharp of an angle, so I just cut it. I cannot mess this up because I only have enough to do this one final side. So I carefully put it on, but I was actually starting to get the hang of it, and it went a lot faster and looked a lot better. And I brought it around to the back and tried to line it up as best I could, and I cut it so it didn't look too weird. I only had a tiny bit left. Then I gave it one final wipe down to get any small plastic pieces off. This thing is looking so much better now. Now I want to fix these mirrors because they're really floppy. So I started by unscrewing the top screw, but there was a bolt in the way, so I used a cloth to be careful not to scratch the plexiglass, and did the same thing to the other side. But the bottom screw was harder because the nut was inside the Bug E, so I had to wrap my arms around it, but I did eventually get it off. If you look here, I'm pretty sure I just need to tighten up that screw and it should be way better. So I tightened them both down as best I could without wrecking the plastic. Yeah, that's solid. It doesn't move now. And then I tried to polish it because it was still a little dirty. Yeah, that looks so much better. So I polished the other mirror and then started putting them back on, but there was one problem. The bottom screw on the left mirror was too small, so it would just rotate back and forth and it was not solid. The plastic must have broke where it was supposed to catch, so I screwed in the other screws and then put the other mirror back in. But the plastic on that one wasn't broken, so it stayed solid. Awesome, there we go. And then I went in and got them both perfectly lined up. To fix this hole here, I'm gonna put these caps in it, but they don't quite fit, and these are the smallest ones I have, so I gotta drill it out a little bit. So I put some tape over it so I didn't crack the fiberglass and started with a smaller drill bit, but it didn't fit, so I got a little bit bigger of one and it was perfect. There we go. And then I did the exact same thing to the other side. Oh, sweet. Alright, everything on here is looking so much better. And as I said, it's not perfect up here, but it is so much better. This washer should hopefully keep it in. So I put the washer on the broken part, and it seemed to keep it in really good. Oh yeah, that is solid. Then I adjusted both of them again to get the perfect viewing angle. And then I took the canopy off because I didn't want to scratch it, and it made it way easier to work on the electronics. I've only done wiring stuff once before on my lawnmower, and it was really simple, so I wanted to watch my dad to completely understand how to do it the correct way. So we put the screen on, drilled a hole for the wire, and then ran it through and hooked it all up. But we weren't just hooking up the screen. We also hooked up the fan, which were really the only two things I was changing on the dash, besides the battery voltage monitor. The old one looked pretty bad in my opinion, so I got this new one with the screen. So while my dad was working on wiring up the electronics, I made a template for it out of tape, and then put it in a good spot where I liked it, and then cut the hole for it. We made sure to blow all the fiberglass dust away because it's really hard to get out, but the battery monitor didn't quite fit, so I had to drill it out a little bit more. But then it fit, so we put it in and basically just connected the old wires from the old battery monitor into this new one. And then we ran into a problem. All right, we're a little stuck. There's just this random extra wire here, and this converter box is not getting any power. So nothing up front except for the battery monitor is working because that's wired directly to the battery. So we're just trying to figure out what wire is missing to power everything. And then literally while I was just looking at it for a couple of seconds, I figured something out. Oh, I figured it out. I literally just figured it out. I'm a genius. How did I just figure this out? This thing here has 3 wires going into it, but only 2 are coming out. That's what this extra wire is. This extra wire is supposed to go up into that, and it must have just fallen out. So we temporarily connected it and tried turning on the screen when we ran into another huge problem. Hopefully it's not like fried. All right, so this thing will just not turn on. So I'm gonna test to see if I fried it or not and see if it still works. So I tried turning it on with a couple different wires and power banks, but it would just not turn on. Okay, this is the last resort. This is the most powerful charger I own. So I tried turning it on, and oh man, it's just not working. I even tried taking it apart, but I didn't want to wreck it further, so I decided not to. So yeah, I've done some more research, and this screen is fried. If you look here, this thing had all like the protection stuff in it, and I cut it off. So I ordered a new one, and I do have a plan to make it safe. But in the meantime, I got some more Velcro so I can finally put it around and get the top on. So I put the canopy on to see where the Velcro needed to be. And just need to remember, there's a little gap here, so I can't have the Velcro all the way down. So I took it back off so I could use this degreaser stuff, and I sprayed it all around the edge where the Velcro would be, so it had a really good place to stick to. In a previous episode, I tried putting the Velcro on, but I didn't do this step, and it pretty much all fell off. It looks pretty good. It looked good, except for the back, because you could see pretty clearly where the Velcro ended, so I trimmed it a bit and then added the Velcro on the other side. Well, it looks really good on here. You can't see the Velcro like you could before. But now for the more important part. Will it stay on? Oh yeah. I'm lifting on the plexiglass right now, and it's not even, it's lifting the whole body. It looks so good too with the screen. I've never seen it with the screen in. That looks so awesome. Some of the paint on the interior here got a little messed up, so I just want to touch it up a little bit. So I just taped off the edges that were white and some of the other parts that I didn't want to get painted black. But I didn't worry too much about the rest of the inside because it was already black anyways. And I gave it just a quick coat and let it dry overnight, and it looked great. Looks way better. I also bought a new screen, and I got this cigarette lighter port, so I should just be able to plug this in and it won't fry the screen this time. But this thing requires like 12 volts of power, so I'm not gonna be able to splice it from the fan. Probably just gonna have to splice it in down here somewhere where there are thicker wires. So me and my dad brought the wire all the way through the buggy where the 12 volt converter box was. And we connected it to the extra wires and also fixed the wire that got pulled out. And then we also hooked up both the headlights, and I tried turning on the screen, and yep, there we go. Working screen. But it wasn't just the screen that was working. Fan works. Sweet. So everything besides the blinkers, pretty much. So we took a look at them, and it was actually super simple. One of the bulbs had just come loose. Oh, it's working. But I also bought some new bulbs because it was a little slow, and somehow putting in new light bulbs made it way faster and a more normal blinking speed. But I had to take the screen out and drill a larger hole because this time the wire was a bit thicker because I didn't cut the end off. And then I blew all the extra fiberglass off, ran the wire through, and put it on. And then I made sure all the wires looked good and were out of the way. But don't worry, later in the video, I'll make it look really good. This is so cool. Watch, when I turn the key, everything turns on. That's so awesome. Ooh, and it's got a ringtone too. Brake light works, headlights work, and the blinkers work. So yeah, we are so close. Every electrical thing is like done and like figured out. Everything works. It just looks like a mess in there. So just gotta clean it up, make it look really nice. So I took it for a quick test drive to make sure it still drove fine, which it did, and then I set it up to get ready to work on fixing the mistake I made. I'll explain it in a second, but to be safe, I disconnected the battery so I didn't accidentally shock myself anywhere. But basically, I forgot to drill a hole for the cigarette lighter port before I wired it up. That way it can actually go through. So I disconnected all of the wires from it, which were just one negative and one positive wire, and then I ran it all the way back through to get it out so I could cut the hole. So I made a template out of tape, which seemed to work well in the past, and I set it on the best spot I could find and drilled drilled the hole. And I tried putting it in, but it didn't quite fit, so I had to drill it a little bit bigger, and then it fit perfectly. So I blew all the fiberglass dust out, making sure not to breathe any of it in, and then tightened down the cigarette lighter port. And once it was good and tight, I got to work running the wires back through the hole and into the battery tray, which was a little difficult, but eventually I got them through and wired them back to where they were originally. I started with the ground and put the end piece on and tested it, and it was not coming off anytime soon. Then I taped it up and did the same thing to the negative. And then I took off the old giant bus bars and replaced them with these smaller ones I bought because I just had no need for them to be so huge. But I didn't love how it looked, so I flipped it around the other way so it could be tucked down in there a little bit better. And then I took the bus off the negative side, but one of the wires were way longer than they needed to be. So I shortened it down and then connected everything back together. And it looked way better without the giant old buses in. And I do still have this reverse camera that can go on here, so let's install that. So I bent the bracket so I could fit it on the taillight, but I didn't want to drill it in, so I just used some double-sided tape and it seemed to work great. Oh yeah, there's the camera view. What's up? This actually looks pretty good. I'm actually pretty close to this and it's got a pretty good like range of view. So I guess if you're parking or something, it's just like nice to have, or I don't know. Then I zip tied one part of the wire and ran it through. Now that everything is pretty much hooked up besides the charger, I want to make sure this thing still drives. This thing is way too fun to drive. It makes me really not want to sell it. It's a little shaky on the inside, but it accelerates really fast. It's actually insane. It's kind of hard to tell on camera how fast it can actually accelerate, but you really feel it in there. Oh no. Oh, it's okay. Yeah, that GoPro has been through a lot. But I moved the buggy around so it would be a little easier to work on, and then I took apart the charger port. Now I got this piece here. The reason I took it apart is so it'd be easier to draw out the template for where I needed to cut. And after figuring it out, I drilled the holes. So as long as I cut to those 4 holes I drilled, I should be good. Okay, I'm very nervous for this because I'm not too great with this tool, so let's see how it goes. I cut it out, but I had to take breaks in between every cut because I couldn't hold my breath for too long, and the fiberglass was smoking a little bit, but drilling those 4 holes so I knew where to cut made it way easier. Oh, there we go. Nice. So I blew out all the fiberglass dust and then drilled the 4 holes where the screws would go into. Oh yeah, that is perfect. It is a tiny bit crooked, but I think that's okay. It's not too bad. And while I was blowing out the last bit of dust, I noticed my workspace was really messy, so I cleaned it up as good as I could. Finally found the instructions to my battery monitor. Okay, it should be good now. I still need to get the correct hardware to install this because it only came with screws and I need bolts and nuts. But you may have noticed this chain is super rusty. So I'm gonna try to use some of this rust dissolver just to make it look a little bit better. I've used this stuff once before and it worked pretty well. So I just made sure to get it all over the chain and not on any of the paint. So I think I just gotta let it sit for a bit and we'll see. It's already looking way better actually. But the sprocket still looked really bad and it had these weird stains in it. So I found some brake cleaner and sanded off the sprocket as best as I could. And then also used the brake cleaner to try to get all the stains out of it, which seemed to work pretty well. I let it sit overnight and this chain looks really good. It looks way better than it did before. I got some hardware for this charger port, so let's put it in. So I slid it in and it's so nice when things just fit perfectly. I tightened down all the bolts and it looked really good. This thing is solid and it's really cool. Just opens up, closes, protects it from water and stuff. Then I did the scary process of disconnecting the battery so I could wire the charging port directly to it. Up to this point, everything was working perfectly fine. So I don't know if this was something I shouldn't have done, but at the time I forgot to test to see if everything was even working. Never have to do that again. That is way too scary. Now let's make this look a lot better. I bought a bunch of wire housing, so I basically just put it on any open wires that just didn't look too great. And then I got some zip tie bracket thingies with double stick tape so I could secure the wire for the dash cam. But now I gotta sort this mess. And this is where things start to go bad. I was basically just taking all the wires and putting them into one tube. And I don't know if I cut one or wrecked something while doing that, but I realized I needed a test to make sure everything was still working. And when I did, nothing would turn on except for the screen. Well, now it's not working. And then I saw the cigarette lighter adapter for the screen was smoking, so I unplugged it. What did I just do? Probably just fried this. It smells like burning. This is not good. I don't know what I just did. Oh, man. And just to be safe, I disconnected the battery because I didn't want to wreck anything else. Well, guys, I don't know. I might have just fried literally everything. I have no clue. Smoke was coming from the cigarette lighter thing. But yeah, the horn doesn't work. The lights don't work. The fan doesn't do anything. So I don't know what the deal is. The only thing I added was the charging port. So I don't know if that messed something up. I did it directly to the battery, but if you guys have any idea what happened, please let me know. I really wanted to finish it this episode, but now I might have just ruined everything. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.